The prestigious Anderson Memorial Hospital's grand hall sparkled with celebration lights and champagne flutes. Delicate flower arrangements adorned every table, and the who's who of the medical community mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. My mother, Dr. Sarah Bennett, stood at the center of it all in her designer dress, accepting congratulations on her 30 years as chief of surgery. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling the weight of my phone in its pocket. Years of dismissal had taught me patience. The notification from my executive assistant flashed again. Building unveiling preparations complete. Emily, you actually came. My mother's voice carried that familiar mix of surprise and disappointment. I thought you'd be too busy with what are you doing these days? Before I could answer, my sister Margaret swept in, her white doctor's coat pristine. Mom, the hospital board wants another photo. She barely glanced my way. Oh, Emily. Still doing that business consulting thing. I watched them pose together, mother and daughter, both surgeons, both carrying our family's medical legacy. The photographer's flashes highlighted their matching confident smiles. You're such a disappointment, Mom announced later, cornering me by the gift table. Several heads turned our way. Your sister made chief resident in record time. Meanwhile, she gestured vaguely at my entire existence. You couldn't even get into medical school. The room had grown quieter, more people pretending not to listen. My sister smirked from beside the podium. Dad, ever the silent enabler, studied his champagne glass. What exactly do you do all day? Mom continued, her voice carrying. Besides waste that business degree on freelance work? I checked my watch. A subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than her annual salary. I solve problems, I said quietly. Problems. She laughed. The only problem is that I have one brilliant daughter and one who. She paused for effect, making sure everyone could hear. You're such a disappointment. To the whole family. The room was silent now. Perfect. I pulled out my phone, noting the time. In exactly 2 minutes, everything would change. You know, Mom, I've been meaning to tell you something about my freelance work. Please, she scoffed. Spare us another story about your little consulting projects. Actually, I smiled. It's about this hospital. What about it? Her eyes narrowed. Did you ever wonder why the board approved the new wing's construction so quickly? Or where the funding came from? The mysterious donor, Margaret chimed in. Some wealthy philanthropist who insisted on anonymity. I pressed a button on my phone. Security, please proceed with the unveiling. What are you doing? Mom demanded. Solving problems, I said. Like how this hospital needed modernization. How the East Wing was falling apart. How your surgical equipment was 10 years out of date. Through the windows we could see movement on the lawn. Security teams were taking positions. What's happening? Dad finally spoke. The unveiling of the new wing, I said calmly. The Elizabeth Bennett Memorial Wing, to be precise. Mom's awards plaque slipped from her hands. That's not possible. Oh, but it is, I said, watching the covers on the building begin to move. You see, while you were busy being disappointed in me, I was busy building something. Not a medical career, something bigger. The covers dropped. My name shone in elegant letters across the new wing, illuminated perfectly in the evening light. Through the windows we could see the gathered crowd outside pointing and taking photos. But, how? Margaret stammered. My phone buzzed again. Right on schedule. The hospital administrator hurried over, looking nervous. Miss Bennett, he said, nodding respectfully to me. The board is ready for your announcement. Announcement? Mom's voice had lost its edge. What announcement? I straightened my dress and headed for the podium. The one where I explain how your disappointment of a daughter now owns controlling interest in not just this hospital, but the entire healthcare network it belongs to. The room erupted in whispers. I caught fragments. Largest healthcare acquisition. Billions in investment. Youngest Ziv. Mom sank into a chair, her retirement party forgotten. Dad's champagne glass trembled in his hand. Anne Margaret, my perfect sister, stood frozen, finally seeing me clearly for the first time. I stepped up to the podium, remembering every dismissive comment, every disappointed sigh, every comparison to my sister. The microphone waited. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice carrying across the now silent room. I believe it's time to discuss some changes to Anderson Memorial Hospital. The text from my assistant lit up my phone. Board members all present. Files ready for distribution. Time to show them everything. I smiled, looking at my mother's pale face. Yes, I typed back. Show them everything. The doors opened and the hospital board members filed in, carrying folders with my company's logo. Mom's retirement party was about to become something else entirely. The board members took their seats at the front, each holding thick folders stamped with my company's logo, Artemis Healthcare Solutions. The whispers in the room grew louder as people began connecting the dots. Artemis, the $12 billion healthcare technology company that had been acquiring hospitals across the country, making headlines for its revolutionary patient care systems. As some of you are just learning, I continued from the podium, Artemis Healthcare Solutions acquired majority control of this hospital network 6 months ago. But our involvement goes back much further. I clicked to the first slide. Pictures of the hospital's outdated equipment appeared. 3 years ago, when Mom rejected my suggestion to modernize the surgical wing, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Not as a surgeon but as someone who could see the bigger picture. Mom's face flushed red. I remembered that day clearly, how she'd laughed at my concerns about their outdated systems, telling me to stick to whatever little business things you do. The Elizabeth Bennett Memorial Wing isn't just a new building, I explained, clicking through slides showing cutting-edge medical technology. It's the most advanced medical facility on the East Coast. Robotic surgery suites, AI-powered diagnostic systems, and patient care technology that will revolutionize how we treat people. Margaret shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She'd been using the same outdated equipment Mom had trained on, too proud to admit they needed updating. But this isn't just about new technology, I continued. It's about the future of healthcare. Mom, remember when you said I'd never understand medicine like you and Margaret? She wouldn't meet my eyes. You were right. I don't understand medicine like you do. I understand it differently. While you were performing surgeries, I was building a company that would transform how surgeries are performed. The board chairman stood up. Ms. Bennett's company has developed artificial intelligence systems that have reduced surgical errors by 78% in pilot programs. The Elizabeth Bennett Wing will be the first full implementation of this technology. Gasps filled the room. My sister's perfect posture finally slumped. And yes, I added, I named it after myself. Consider it my version of making the family proud. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Mom's face had gone from red to pale. Now, I said, opening my folder, let's discuss the changes. First, our investment in staff training. I paused, looking directly at my mother. Dr. Bennett, as you're retiring, will need a new chief of surgery. The board and I have been reviewing candidates. Mom's head snapped up. This had been her moment to announce Margaret as her successor. The plan they'd had for years. After careful consideration, I continued, we've selected Dr. Jessica Martinez from Johns Hopkins. Her work with our AI systems has shown exceptional results. Margaret stood up so quickly her chair toppled over. You can't do this. That position was... I'm next in line. I met her gaze steadily. Dr. Bennett, Margaret, your surgical skills are excellent. But this hospital needs someone who embraces innovation, not someone who clings to outdated methods because that's how Mom did it. How dare you? Mom finally found her voice. This is my retirement party. No, Mom, I said quietly. This is a shareholders' meeting. Your retirement party was just convenient timing. Speaking of which, I nodded to the board chairman. He stood again. Dr. Sarah Bennett, in recognition of your years of service, the board has prepared a retirement package. However, given the change in ownership and direction of the hospital, we'll need you to fully retire. No emeritus position, no consulting role. The color drained from her face completely. Her carefully planned semi-retirement, where she'd maintain influence and control, evaporated. You can't. She whispered. Actually, I can. And I have. But don't worry, Mom. Your legacy is secure. Just not in the way you planned. The screens showed the hospital's new logo featuring my name. 30 years of her building this place, and in one evening I'd remade it in my image. Dad finally spoke up. Emily, surely we can discuss this as a family? Like you discussed making me feel worthless at every family dinner? kept my voice level. No, Dad. This is business. And business is what I do best. My phone buzzed again. The message read, "Press waiting outside. They want a statement about the AI implementation." Perfect timing. "If you'll excuse me," I said to the stunned room, "I have a press conference." "Mom, enjoy your retirement party. Margaret, Dr. Martinez will want to meet with you tomorrow about your role under the new structure." "And Dad?" I paused. "The board meeting minutes will be sent to all shareholders. I suggest you read them carefully." As I walked toward the door, my heels clicking on the marble floor, I heard the distinct sound of another champagne glass shattering. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The morning headlines said it all. Healthcare heiress reveals $12 billion empire at mother's retirement. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, least of all my family. I sat in my new office, previously my mother's, reviewing the hospital's transition reports. The wall of medical achievements and awards had been replaced with sleek monitors showing real-time AI diagnostics and patient care metrics. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called, knowing exactly who it would be. Margaret entered, looking different from yesterday. Her pristine white coat was slightly wrinkled, her usual confidence dimmed. "We need to talk, Emily." "Dr. Bennett," I corrected gently. "In this building we'll keep things professional." She flinched but sat down. "Mom hasn't stopped crying since last night. Dad's meeting with his lawyers. And I..." She paused, swallowing hard. "I just met Dr. Martinez. And..." "She's brilliant," Margaret admitted reluctantly. "Her ideas for integrating AI into surgical procedures. I never thought about medicine this way." I nodded, pulling up a file on my tablet. "That's why she's chief of surgery and why I'm offering you a different position." I turned the screen toward her. Head of Surgical Innovation. Working directly with Dr. Martinez, helping integrate our AI systems with traditional surgical techniques. Her eyes widened as she read the details. This is actually exactly what you need." I finished. "Yes. You're a talented surgeon, Margaret. But you've been living in Mom's shadow, trying to be her clone instead of your own doctor." For the first time in years, I saw my sister's shoulders relax. "Why didn't you tell us about all of this? Would Mom have listened? Would you?" I raised an eyebrow. Every time I tried talking about healthcare innovation, Mom called it playing with computers. Every time I suggested improvements, you both dismissed me as the family failure. "I'm sorry," she whispered, surprising me. "I really am." Another knock. My assistant announced, "Your parents are here." I straightened my designer blazer. Chanel, not that Mom would approve even now. "Send them in." They entered like diminished versions of themselves. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, Dad clutching a folder I recognized as the shareholders' report. "Have you seen what she's done?" Mom burst out. "The press, the stock market, everyone knows." "Knows what, Mom? That your disappointment built a billion-dollar company? That your failure revolutionized healthcare? You destroyed my legacy," she shouted. "No," I stood up calmly. "I enhanced it. Look at these numbers." I gestured to the screens. Patient recovery rates up 40%. Surgical complications down 78%. Treatment costs reduced by a third while improving outcomes. But, she stuttered. "The Bennett name means more than ever in medicine," I continued. "Just not the way you planned. And isn't that what you always wanted? For me to contribute to medicine?" Dad cleared his throat. "The shareholders' report. Emily, this is extraordinary. The technology patents alone are worth billions," I finished. "And before you ask, yes, the family's shares remain intact. In fact, they're worth considerably more now." Mom sank into a chair. "I don't understand. All these years. I was building something," I said softly. "Something bigger than being another surgeon in your shadow. I saw where healthcare needed to go and I made it happen." Margaret spoke up. "Mom, you should see what Emily's systems can do. It's incredible. We're not losing the hospital. We're part of something revolutionary." Mom looked up, tears in her eyes. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed in me?" I asked simply. "Or would you have tried to control this too, like everything else?" The silence was answer enough. "So here's what happens now," I continued. Margaret takes her new position, pioneering the integration of AI and traditional surgery. Dad, your shares are safe. In fact, they've tripled in value since yesterday. And Mom. She tensed. You get what you always wanted. A daughter who changed medicine forever. Just not with a scalpel. The screens behind me showed real-time data from hospitals across the country using my systems. Lives being saved. Patients healing faster. The future of medicine unfolding. The choice is yours, I said. Fight this and lose everything, or accept that your disappointment of a daughter actually knew what she was doing. Mom stood slowly looking around the office, her old office. Her eyes lingered on the modern displays that had replaced her medical certificates. I was wrong, she finally said, each word seeming to cost her. About everything. I nodded, accepting the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get. Good. Because the press conference announcing our global expansion is in an hour, and it would be nice to have my family there. All of you. Margaret smiled. Dad nodded. Mom finally looked at me the way she used to look at Margaret. Well, she said, straightening her shoulders, we shouldn't keep the press waiting. As we walked out together, I caught my reflection in the window. The disappointment who became the success. The failure who revolutionized an industry. The daughter who finally earned her family's respect not by following their path, but by creating her own. The Elizabeth Bennet wing gleamed in the morning sun, my name a testament to every no that became a yes, every dismissal that became determination.